Before 1920, baseball was a very different game. It was a sport dominated by pitchers. Runs were scored by crafty base running and hitting for average, not power. Superstars such as Ty Cobb of the Detroit Tigers and the New York Giants' Christy Mathewson epitomized this approach to the game. In the 1920s, the game changed forever when the mighty Babe Ruth stepped to the plate. George Herman Ruth Jr. started playing baseball as a kid at St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys in Baltimore, Maryland. At the age of 19, the young pitcher caught the eye of Baltimore Orioles minor league manager Jack Dunn, who immediately signed him to his first professional contract. Dunn had a history of picking out young major league talent. When Ruth appeared at the ballpark, one player quipped, "Well, here's Jack's newest babe." The name stuck, and a legendary career was born. 5 months after the Orioles picked him up, Babe Ruth was sold to the Boston Red Sox, where he made his major league pitching debut on July 11th, 1914. The Babe's hitting skills were too impressive to ignore. Red Sox manager Bill Kerrigan had Ruth play outfield on the days he wasn't pitching, and in 1919, Ruth set a single-season record by smashing 29 home runs while leading the league in RBIs and runs. The financially strapped Red Sox could not afford to pay the rising star the salary he demanded. In 1920, the Sultan of Swat was sold to the New York Yankees for $41,000. The new Yankee ushered in the decade with a bang, launching 54 home runs, an astronomical number for the time. An icon off the field as well, Ruth indulged in heavy drinking, eating, and womanizing. He missed the first 2 months of the 1925 season with a stomach ache heard round the world, resulting from his eating dozens of hot dogs washed down with beer. The Babe had a generous side as well. Being abandoned by his parents at a young age, Babe Ruth had a difficult childhood. As an influential adult, he wanted to make sure other children had it better than himself. He made countless visits to children in hospitals and orphanages and made large donations to children's charities. The Bambino became so popular in New York that a new 62,000-seat stadium was built to contain his fans. The $2.5 million Yankee Stadium opened in 1923 and was fittingly referred to as the house that Ruth built. Before Babe Ruth came to New York, the Yankees had never won a pennant. From 1920 to 1933, the Yankees created a sports dynasty, winning 7 pennants and 4 world championships. Arguably the best team in baseball history, the 1927 Yankees swept the Pittsburgh Pirates in the World Series after winning 110 games and losing just 44 in the regular season. The team featured a pitcher's worst nightmare, with a lineup consisting of the Babe, Lou Gehrig, Earl Combs, and Bob Meusel. This offensive dynamo was known as Murderer's Row. That year, the Babe hit 60 home runs while driving in 164 runs and having a .356 batting average. Babe Ruth retired from baseball in 1935 and became a charter member of the Baseball Hall of Fame the following year. During his career, he compiled 714 home runs, a record that stood for almost 40 years until Hank Aaron broke it in 1974. Babe Ruth died on August 16, 1948, after losing his 2-year battle with throat cancer. For 2 days, his casket lay at the main entrance to Yankee Stadium, where hundreds of thousands of people paid their last respects. The sports industry wasn't the only form of entertainment booming during the 1920s. The public flocked to the movies in record numbers to catch a glimpse of their favorite stars. One of the most famous starlets of the time was Clara Bow. The daughter of a schizophrenic mother and a sexually abusive father, Clara had a harsh, poverty-stricken childhood. In 1921, she broke away by winning a magazine beauty contest. The prize was a small role in the film Beyond the Rainbow. this would be the first of 58 films that she would make between 1922 and 1933. Bow was a versatile actress whose characters ranged from a wrongfully accused convict in the dramatic Free to Love to a freewheeling party girl in the comedy My Lady of Whims. In 1927, she had breakthrough performances with the release of two films, Wings and It. Although Wings was an important film for Bow, her defining screen role came in the film version of Elinor Glynn's novel, The It Girl. Bow's performance in It had far-reaching effects on society. Clara had it, a quality that was desired by both genders. Women emulated her flapper style, while men sought out women with the alluring qualities that made Clara so tempting. The It Revolution captured the qualities of the new modern woman who broke away from the traditional roles of femininity. She didn't hide her sexuality and acted masculine by drinking and smoking in public. Clara became known as the It Girl and received 45,000 fan letters a month. All this adulation soon came crashing to a halt, however, with the invention of talkies, or motion pictures with sound. Clara's thick Brooklyn accent didn't come across well on screen, and she was not a fan of the new breed of film, claiming,
"I hate talkies. They're stiff and limiting. You lose a lot of your cuteness because there's no chance for action. And action is the most important thing to me. And people are so quick to pounce on you if your voice isn't perfect."
In 1931, she married cowboy star Rex Bell and retired from the film world at the age of 26. The rest of her life, she tried to stay out of the limelight, but was hampered by numerous scandals and mental health problems. On September 26, 1965, America's first sex symbol died of a heart attack in West Los Angeles at the age of 60. While Clara Bow flew into the hearts of moviegoers in Wings, a real-life aviation drama captured the heart of the world as Charles Lindbergh became the first person to make a non-stop solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean. Aviation started to take flight in the 1920s. Flying wasn't just a tool of war anymore. Pilots were hired to fly mail across the country as well as passengers with the emergence of private airlines. Stunt pilots, known as barnstormers, wowed crowds at fairgrounds with death-defying feats like flying through barns, under bridges, and upside down. The ultimate, seemingly unattainable stunt was a solo flight across the treacherous Atlantic Ocean. In 1919, hotel owner Raymond Ortiz offered $25,000 to the first aviator to fly non-stop from New York to Paris. For years, pilots attempted the flight. Many of them did not survive the journey or were badly injured. By 1927, the prize was still up for grabs. Former barnstormer and airmail pilot Charles Augustus Lindbergh believed that the money could be his if he had the right plane. With the financial backing of 9 St. Louis businessmen and engineering help from the Ryan Aeronautical Company of San Diego, he designed the Spirit of St. Louis. On May 10, 1927, Lindbergh tested the plane by flying from San Diego to New York City with a brief stopover in St. Louis. He arrived in 20 hours and 21 minutes, a transcontinental record. It was pouring rain on the morning of May 20th when Lindbergh prepared for takeoff from an airstrip in Long Island en route to Paris, France. During liftoff, the hopeless-looking plane barely made it over a parked tractor and some overhead wires at the end of the runway. The Spirit of St. Louis carried 425 gallons of gasoline for the long journey. To save weight, the monoplane flew without a radio or parachute, and the cockpit seat was made out of wicker. The airplane had no windshield, only side windows, and to see ahead, Lindbergh had to use a movable periscope. The flight was rougher than imagined as Lindbergh flew blindly through dense clouds while ice formed on his wings. Oftentimes he would nod off and regain consciousness just before the Spirit of St. Louis was about to plummet into the cold ocean water. Finally,